Hey everyone, Dr. Nicole here. So everyone has, their own story about different health struggles that they've had, and some people it's really extreme, and others, maybe we're dealing with more minor things. And I feel like for me, the biggest thing that I've taken away from my own health journey is you don't know what you don't know. And I wasn't necessarily a person who I felt like had many symptoms. I would have never classified myself as sick. I honestly thought I was pretty healthy, considering I really made an effort with my diet. I was constantly working out. I really tried to make an effort with what I knew. And that's really what it was, is I didn't know much, but I thought that I was doing really well for myself at that time. And I find this to be such a common theme because many of us we have certain things ingrained just from how we grew up in society as to, what is normal versus what's not normal. And for me, nothing was a sudden onset. Things were more of a gradual onset. And I always explain to patients now, when things are a gradual onset, they usually go unnoticed and become your normal. And, looking back as a teenager and even into my 20s, I had these random things that would come and go, but nothing was super persistent enough for me to be highly concerned. Did I have random gastrointestinal complaints? Did I have bloating with certain foods that I ate? I had occasional headaches. I definitely got sick anywhere between 2 to 3 times a year. I had definitely some sinus issues, nothing severe to the point of sinus infections, but I found myself using things like Afrin and over-the-counter nasal sprays. But I would say the most significant was I was having a lot of issues reproductive. I actually found myself getting close to my period. Anytime I would do any type of physical activity, like go for a jog or a run, I would actually get such severe abdominal pains that it would cause me to faint. And when going down the road of trying to understand why this was happening or get a diagnosis, I actually didn't get any answers. I got told that maybe I had a cyst that was being aggravated when I ran and that I would just have to deal with it. So it didn't happen all the time, so it was very easy to kind of sweep it under the rug and not pay attention to it. But it got to a time that I started to move in this direction with my career, and I started doing testing on myself, and my testing revealed that I wasn't as healthy as I thought I was. And I remember almost fighting it a little bit to be like, this can't be true, this can't be possible, like I don't understand. And then I really started to just digest the information and reflect back on just things that I've experienced. And I remember in college being a pre-med student thinking, I'm just not as smart as the other kids. Like I just study a lot more, and maybe I'm not cut out for this. And what's interesting is one of the very first tests I ever did was for heavy metal toxicity, and it actually turned out that I had massive amounts of mercury in my system. And I was also a pescatarian for 10 years, meaning I only ate fish. I ate a lot of raw fish because I loved sushi, again, thinking I was healthy. But I presume to this day that was the majority of my exposure. But you'll never really know where all of these things come from, but they acquire over time. I always say it's like a snowball effect. So it was just very interesting as I started to uncover different things that were going on in my body. I actually found out that I lived in mold most of my childhood and had a lot of mold toxicity in a lot of the lymph nodes of my body and also my liver. I had a lot of mercury toxicity, and I even showed up with traces of Lyme's disease in my system. So you could see how I easily sat back and was like in shock. So I decided not to kind of harp on these diagnoses and to just start doing what I knew how to do, which was healing my body. And I started to utilize detoxification therapies and supplements and dietary things, a lot of things that I do with people now. And when I started to feel better and to peel away these layers, I really started to realize that I didn't feel good. And it was very, very eye-opening because I was foggy, I was tired, I had PMS, I had gastrointestinal issues. I had a lot of things that maybe weren't super extreme, but they were there. And once they started to improve, it really opened my eyes that I really didn't feel well at all, but it was my normal. And this is something that's just so significant and so important for people to grasp, because you might be going through your day-to-day and just that daily headache is your normal, that daily indigestion is your normal, that fatigue is your normal, not wanting to get out of bed is your normal. It doesn't have to be. And it's really just a matter of getting the right testing, the right diagnosis, and the right strategy to start healing your body. So I really hope that this can be very eye-opening to you and really give you the incentive to be proactive now before those bad symptoms set in, because we do live in a world right now that we're exposed to a lot more than we realize, and it's about being proactive so that we don't have to sit there and wait to potentially get that diagnosis that runs in our family, that thyroid diagnosis, that cancer diagnosis. It's about really just understanding your body and feeling the best that you can, and doing it in a natural and holistic way.